Labrīt, dāmas un
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am very honored to see you all in such numbers. This is an annual foreign investors environment event or sentiment event. And this event every year is bringing discussions as to where we are, where we would like to go. This year, the main topic that we have been talking about and that we surveyed investors is about administrative burden, about how it impacts or impedes our investment environment. And it is indeed very important to understand not only how we perceive this reality or who we are, but where we would like to go. That's why it is important to participate in these discussions, because everyone with our own work, we form the future. This event is a bit different from previous years with the following, that we cooperate together with AHC, giving us presentation onto how we see investment environment compare Europe and Baltic countries in general. And I believe that this discussion will be, and I would like our speakers as well as our panelists, you will be able to ask questions to them, but for them to think what are the steps on a daily basis that we can take in order to make things better. Because I discovered the sentiment index some years ago already, and the feeling is that topics keep returning year after year. Maybe for a change, we could think over how we can act differently in order for next year to be able to talk about different topics. With this, I would like to invite Arnis Sauka, who is our cooperation partner, our ally in the field of sentiment index, informing as well as making considerations and conclusions afterwards. So, Arnis, the floor is yours. Thank you very much and good morning. I am indeed very happy about the main thought as to what we can do, and I believe that we will come to conclusions what we can do. My task this year is very simple, or more simple than previous years when we first told you about the report, about the results of the report. This year, we decided to warm you up already. If you watch media, you probably already know what I'm going to talk about. Besides OECD report, annual report also spoke about the same issues that we are going to talk about today. I will very briefly go through main results in order to warm you up, to remind you why we are here, and is it the foreign investors who is the only driving force? Not only, but we see other indicators as well, why we have to listen to foreign investors. These are those 66 foreign investors whom we surveyed this year. This was not done by students, but by FICIL members of the board, peer-to-peer level people, in order to get the invitation more correctly. Mr. Asheradens, yesterday you said and thanked OECD for their work. Many hours were dedicated by foreign investors to make this survey, and it was for free indeed. These are the investors who are talking about these topics for 9 years. We would like to change those topics, but foreign investors keep talking, hoping that topics will change. The figures are not good. I cannot make you happy. 1.9 percent point is the lowest indicator since 2016. And what foreign investors are saying that 2.4 out of 5. And it is interesting that some people here said the following after filling in these surveys. They said after filling in, I thought maybe I was in a bad mood. Why I was so harsh, but at the same time I could not give a better mark. I don't want to say bad things, but I don't have anything good to say. Good thing is that those people are still here and they keep talking, but those whom we want to attract, those probably will not be attracted. Why and what are the factors? There are some good things. Export capacity, also tax policy, which is not all bad. Speaking about negative factors, geopolitical situation is the most prominent impeding factor due to reasons understandable to everyone. It is an important factor. We will talk about it later, but it is not an excuse to do nothing. As Lata said, this year we looked at administrative burden, at why is it so? Because administrative burden impacts competitiveness. In this report that is accessible through FICIL website, there are also quotes. Every investor out of those 66 quoted and told you what they don't like about the administrative burden, but the biggest burden lies in these areas, namely construction, tax administration, public procurement, and others. These are the subjects where, according to investors, the administrative burden is the biggest. I will look into my notes what foreign investors are pointing out, that these administrative procedures are so inefficient due to many reasons. Administrative burden, also no cooperation between institutions, what OECD also pointed out, no indicators, no key performance indicators, the difficult procedures that could be interpreted in different ways. There are some amendments that have been suggested by us, especially because the legislation cannot be interpreted in a unanimous way. And this is where someone most probably will breach the law. There is no data management system, unified data management system. You probably know in ministries how different those data systems are, and data are not compatible. As well as political priorities are not clear. This is not the first time when I am saying all those things. The further investments for innovation are not there, and it is all felt by consumers. There are, of course, suggestions from foreign investors, but I will talk about that later during the panel. Besides all those negative things, it's not that everyone is dissatisfied. 67% of investors are saying that investments are increasing, but those are the existing investors who are already here. OECD showed yesterday the amounts of investments, just in figures, not about sentiment, but in figures, total investments. And as you saw, in Lithuania and Estonia, foreign investments are much bigger if we speak about value. And these factors are indeed very important. And I will complete with this slide. One thing, what we are saying here, and how it looks from inside. But then if we compare ourselves with Lithuania, Estonia, because geopolitical situation is the same, as well as very similar, it lies in Poland. And we asked foreign investors who are already here in Latvia, what are the driving forces of competitiveness and how they differ in Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia. And here, the picture is quite worrying because you see infrastructure, innovation environment, accessibility of employees, science, technology, innovation, productivity, and here I will stop. All those factors that I've mentioned and some others, those who understand those factors will agree that those factors are responsible for development. And I believe that if we don't invest in those factors or will invest less than our neighbors, we will never catch up. And OECD spoke about these factors as well. Finally, and I don't have a slide, but I will have a look at my paper. We asked about main challenges for foreign investors and progress or regress compared to last 12 years. What I'm showing here, foreign investors said that the least progress was seen in such areas as all the areas connected with human capital. It is very bad for an economy who wants to go towards value added. Budget is not planned. Energy market is not foreseeable, as well as huge capital is needed for the development of specific industries. If you don't have enough analytics, we have more, as Lata said. And now I give the floor to the board member of the German-Baltic Chamber of Commerce, Executive Director of FICIL, Florian Schröder. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, Excellencies, dear ministers, let me welcome you on behalf of RHK Board. It's an honor for us to be here. We are FICIL member and partner almost from the beginning. We are since 29 years in Latvia. Next year we celebrate our 30th anniversary. We are also part of the global network of 94 countries and 140 offices worldwide, and we conduct this business survey in 16 Eastern countries since almost 20 years. And it contains two parts. Part A focuses on the current economic situation, and Part B on the investment climate, ranking also the countries on 25 quite similar factors like the FICIL survey did. And overall, I have to say that the results are quite underlining each other and sometimes a bit complementary, but they paint the same picture. And let's go right in the middle of things and let's look at Latvia. Now, here we use a scale from 1 to 6. 1 meaning best or very good, 6 meaning very bad. And then we use a color system. And the color yellow means improvement, and dark blue means deterioration, or things got worse. And this light blue is more or less stable compared to previous year. Now let's look a bit deeper into Latvia and also compare with the neighboring countries like Estonia and Lithuania. As you can see, Estonia scores a little bit better than Lithuania, and so therefore I have taken the liberty to put kind of Estonian scores on top of Latvia. And we see actually in all areas Estonia scores better. There's only one little area, and this is labor cost, where they are head to head. Now, where are the differences particularly high? It's the public administration, very much in line what you also found. Transparency of public procurement, predictability of economic policies, fight against corruption and crime, and I add black economy, yeah? Tax system, tax burden, but also the operation of the tax system, and adequacy of vocational training, the labor mismatch, yeah, the skills mismatch in the labor market, and energy supply. So actually completely underlying what Ernest, you just presented here, we find the same things. Now we come to the ranking. The good news is Latvia is among the top 6, but Estonia and Lithuania on place 1 and 2. Poland on place 3. And so I think if we consider, you've mentioned geopolitical as a factor, yeah, but the same applies for Estonia and Lithuania and Poland. I think it's not just not an excuse, it's just irrelevant because it affects the same. The question is what you do with the situation and how you turn it around. And yeah, we take two aspects a bit deeper. We asked about the skilled labor shortage in Latvia. 66% of companies already experienced that, and now 53%, almost half, already had to refuse additional orders. So it means you are losing out concrete GDP because there's lack of skilled labor. That is especially relevant for the exporting companies and the international companies which we represent. And I have to say, in Lithuania, Germany is #1 foreign direct investor. In Latvia, we are not there yet. But if we maybe destruct the finance sector, we are, I think, in top 3 minimum, if not #1. But this is really a significant problem. And now, what could you do? One solution could be to import from third countries. And here we find only 8% of companies are satisfied with the current regulation. So there's also room for improvement, I would say. Now, if we look into the finance sector, which is important because, yeah, money and the finance sector is like oil for the transactions in the economy, 58% have encountered problems cooperating with Latvian banks. What are the main complaints? Long and bureaucratic approval processes. 22% have struggling opening a bank account. We have engaged in a dialogue process with the central bank here, who's the relevant supervisory institution, and thanks for your support, Minister Asheradens, but I think, yeah, we need really to follow up on this and improve the situation. I mean, we all know why it is there, because there was a stronger regulation needed in the finance sector, but it's time now to let the pendulum swing back a bit, and let's all work on that. Now, what do we think are the key messages here? I mean, Estonia and Lithuania and Latvia, they all started from the same place 30 years more or less ago. What we see is that Estonia and Lithuania have really developed a sharp profile for investors. E-Estonia is a global brand, yeah? And we have delegations coming from the US to understand how the Estonians work agile. That's amazing. In Lithuania, we have a laser cluster that is world class. Yeah? I get calls from Taiwan and China asking about Lithuanian lasers. We have an automotive cluster in Lithuania. And they are building up a biotech cluster. And they have successfully established the fintech brand or a fintech cluster there. So what is Latvia going to stand for in the future? What similar projects or clusters or focus areas can you develop? That is, I think, a key area. And then you have to also implement an investment agency that really functions the way it should and can compete with Estonians and Lithuanians. Yeah. About skilled labor, I think, yeah, the third country migration is a thing, but also let's look at reform of the labor market here. We think, and we advocate since 15 years, it has to move on to a dual system where companies play an important role and where teaching and training of skills is not taught in a theoretical schoolroom environment, but concretely in companies, because that's the only way you can acquire the real world skills, not in a classroom, but in the companies, and we call it dual system. About the banks, we've spoken, and yeah, I want to conclude by giving you, I will not read about RHK, but maybe point out who were our respondents. So they come mainly from manufacturing, actually, also from construction, but also retail, wholesale, and yeah, balanced, headquartered, more than a third in Latvia, and then in foreign, Germany or Austria or others, and yeah, small, medium, and larger sized, also quite balanced, I would say. And yeah, we have some who are doing 13%, 100% export, but yeah, rather export focused, I would say. Yeah, that's it from us. I think it's good news. You are here, yeah? 3 relevant ministers and the mayors. So I think together, and we have all the know-how here from the private sector. We are all patriots, yeah? Going out to fight for Latvia and make it better. And we want to have stories which we can share and which makes us proud and move forward. So let's use it to develop such stories today. And I thank you for your attention. And we have printed out, especially also, the first part is interesting. And Liva will go around and my stuff to whoever can take a copy so you can take it home or download the results and study them. Thank you very much.
No, Florian, thank you very much. I think it was really very complimentary towards what we are talking about. And now I would like to introduce our moderator, Janis Domburs. And Janis then will sort of speed ourselves and drive ourselves into the discussion. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's participate.
Paldies. Paldies.
Thank you very much. I invite here the 5 panelists invited here. Minister of Finance, Arvils Ašerādens, Minister of Finance was also here last year. Also Viktors Valainis, Minister of Economics, and Kaspars Valainis, Edgars Kurčāgins, Auditor General of the Republic of Latvia, as well as Vilnis Tirsis, Chairman of the Riga City Council. Most of those gentlemen are in their posts less than a year. I know that more than 10 people of FICIL are ready to ask questions. The situation is quite simple. As you want to ask your question, I will notice you and raise your hand. I have some slides, not yet seen, but we will show them later. And third, dear ministers, dear auditor, dear Chairman, do not talk very lengthy. Let us start from the very beginning. 1.9 and the central message we received some days ago, and that is still the novelty number one. Mr. Asheradens, you have to start. In this same event last year, we spoke and we talked about making it better, but it is worse. Where did it go wrong? Actually, taking into account the circumstances, this is a relatively good score because many things fall very well together. First, consistent crisis, one after the other. This is the last moment when European Central Bank is stabilizing the interest rate situation, and our bank have very conservative crediting rules, also additional expenses. The blood in economy, namely resources, are not enough. We very clearly see that we have shortage of 2 to 5 billion when we have 70 billion altogether as loan, and taking into account all the interest rate, it cannot develop very well. The hope is for 1%. Also, for the government of Latvia, there have been three levels. First, visionary level. Unfortunately, since we are in Eurozone and OECD, there have not been such plans. Then the aimed movement and aimed development is substituted by bureaucracy as well as safety situation. This narrative is very heavy to all the Eastern Europe. Every investor is thinking twice about investing there. The government is talking not about investments but about safety. Mr. Asheradens is already talking on behalf of the government and says that it could be worse. Mr. Valainis, do you agree? Yes, indeed. The evaluation is you did not pass. You can sit down, dear pupil, but we very well known why it is so. And you in your presentations and in your evaluations also mentioned that. We are working on the development of economy, and there will be debates on the 16th of May about the economic development, and all the parties will show and tell what they have to offer. Mr. Florians just mentioned the biggest worry is namely that you have orders, but you do not have skilled labor and human capital, and there are very specific actions that could be done in order to make it better. The same as goes for capital market. We are in zero situation. And if we want to move it and we want to attract 2 to 5 billion that we are lacking in our economy, there are not many options. In Estonia, capital market there is close to 10% in GDP, which is quite substantial against our 1%. It clearly is visible for everyone, but we have to name them, call them names. We had one conversation with Zlata that our homework not done had to be calibrated in figures. How much does it cost? One or the other decision not taken. Mr. Briškens, Minister of Transportation, Good morning. Last time when I participate in this discussion, we were at a ratio of 2.9, and now we 1.9. We are not passing the mark. We have to look for factors besides geopolitical situation that is the biggest impeding factor in all the industries. But what are the other factors? And what I looked at when Mr. Sauka spoke is that infrastructure compared to Baltic countries, our indicators are so bad. In aviation, we are the strongest. Air Baltic is ensuring connectivity for Estonians and Lithuanians who are ready to invest in this company. Speaking about communication, Baltic countries are very similar, I believe. I have not analyzed in detail about the infrastructure and comparison of infrastructure on placing all the antennas and wires in a simplified way. Then I'm looking at the infrastructure of ports, of buses, and roads. We have not invested enough in rail. We have misallocated most probably the not connecting industrial parks, industrial cities with ports for producing companies to be able to export. We have not done, and this is a homework not done also in the road industry. Thank you very much. Mr. Kirsis, how far 1.9 is Riga is to blame for? Yes, indeed. When reading this full text, it is shown that Riga is the place for investments, most of the investments. But a month ago, I was in MIPIM Forum, which is the forum of developers of immovable properties, and there from investors and consultants I heard the following, namely security that cannot be measured. It cannot be measured, but it is a deterring factor. And the second, Euribor. Why to invest with a risk and lose something if you can at the same time buy some stocks and earn even more? But we know our homework, procedures, bureaucracy, infrastructure, etc., etc. Yes, we know that there are problems with infrastructure in Riga. We have our own city-level problems, but investors need some smaller things, namely a roundabout or a road. But if we have a question whether to repair Vanshu Bridge or to ensure an access road for 5 investors, if we do not repair Vanshu Bridge, then the city is closed. Mr. Kurchagins, you are looking at Professor Sauka has analyzed and also to answers. What is the answer to the question, the initial question? What has not been heard and what has not or has been done? First of all, thank you very much for this survey. I have dual feelings. It all shows that the risks that we can help with and do our added value very much go hand in hand with what the investors said. Efficiency of public the public management, as well as human capital, economy. We will do the audit in the middle of the year on that. So we are indeed doing things on what are topical, what has been done, what has not been done. Very lengthy talk could be on what has not been done. Some please tell some. First, efficiency of state governance or public governance. Well, we are not dealing with it all the time. We cannot put together or optimize institutions, optimize resources where they could be optimized. We have still difficulties with administrative territorial reform that is over on the paper but is not over in real life. There are things that have been done, but things that should be done. Please.
Jāsāk tagad. Nu, ko jūs?
Mr. Sauka, everything that's been said already, what did you hear and what you didn't hear as an answer? Hey, what to do with this? Whatever. What is the first question for the attendees from you? So I think we should be looking at how much resources do we have? For us as researchers, it's clear. We measure the temperature, so to say, and we see where's the problem, and then we highlight the direction. And it would be good if someone actually follows it with some kind of a follow-up and introduction plan. So after a year and two, but exactly what? Introduction of what? Well, introduction of the solutions of these problems. I mean, for infrastructure, environment, everything due to which we have this 1.9. 1.9 is the environment of investment and 2.4 is the work of the politicians. I don't know. You can also merge these numbers. And there's going to be another research, and then there's going to be also OECD research and index of shadow economy. For each of them, there are plans, but you need to do this. You need to show us the plan for it. I mean, do we have good plans? Where do we have them? And where we don't? Is it the question to us? Is there anyone else behind you, maybe? It wasn't clear. You were behind us. Yes, okay. I will then begin. I think that the discussion we have begun now is, for example, with construction industry, and that is one of the most important. That is also because bureaucracy oftentimes is also linked to construction in the city of Riga and also elsewhere, be it housing, be it development of industrial territories, because we lag behind very much. And bureaucracy is very heavy in Latvia. We have developed and we are developing the plan very rapidly. And among others, this plan is also approved in the government, and we are also going in accordance with the plan of introduction. What is the plan? What are you talking about then? What is the name of this plan? Bureaucracy reduction in construction. Mr. Sauka, have you seen one? Do you know it? Are you aware of it? I don't know everything. I mean, but who wanted to talk about construction? Okay, let's go. Just give them the microphone. Thank you. Roman Sostakovs from Bastink, Latvia. Developer of real estate. Yes, there is a plan. I do agree. We've seen, we have had also task forces, very productive communication. There are many good factors, and also we are glad to have it so high in the priority list. We are very much waiting for it to be introduced. But one thing it's missing, that in our opinion, we need particular KPIs, which Arnis also mentioned. In many such plans, we don't have KPIs which we can measure and very concrete. Now, in the center, we build 2 office buildings. We all want them. We want sustainable, one orange, one dark gray. Actually, you maybe pass it every day and see it. And then from the day when an open tender for architecture, until the day 6.5 years lasted from approval until we have now built the construction. The green corridor, it all works, it's fine, but we very little speak about the process until we get to the green corridor, when we have to harmonize. We had to harmonize our project with 24 institutions. What KPI would you like to see? Then in our case, if it's 7 years or 6 years, maybe we could actually have it KPI that after the design, the realization is 2 to 3 years maybe. Why don't we have such KPI, Mr. Valens? There are KPIs we have identified ourselves, which would be a absolute minimum reduction of this time by 30%, which you just mentioned. But factually, we saw it in consulting with the businesses. If we do fulfill this plan, then from idea to realization, which you just mentioned, 6.5 years, is 70-year reduction. You actually want 70-year. But there are 62 measures that are being implemented right now. There will be measures we will implement even within following weeks, but there are measures which physically cannot be done. Maybe we will need another half a year or a year to introduce, but we are going to be doing that. Mr. Kurchagin, about construction, maybe from state audit. No comments? Okay. Sorry. About the plans then. Mr. Brishkens? Next year, okay, what are we talking about? 70% reduction in time. I will not tell you a precise date, but then we need to introduce this 1.5 years when all the 62 measures have to be implemented fully. It is the plan which is solving the problems in Riga, is it? Or are there any other plans for Riga, for elsewhere? It actually solves part of the problems. We are also cooperating in development of this plan. What I want to say is that construction is a complex measure. There are institutions, like 24 institutions that mentioned, and it does not actually even depend on what it says in the law and what are the procedures, but each of the institutions have their own capacity and also culture, how they work, how quickly they review the procedures. And what we want to achieve is that, for example, the engineer communications and their holders, we need one task force or one seminar when everyone comes together. And we need to also solve the next step is that there they actually can make the decisions. And then the investor shouldn't go to each and every institution, 24 of them, separately, but we would have one such task force. For example, Riga water supply maybe changes something. Okay, but then the question remains the same. When? It is actually going on already as we speak. But when? When is the end result? You see, it's not that easy. It's not that easy to change the culture of the company. We can't force, for example, Sadalstikli, electricity suppliers, water suppliers, for them to send, send someone who is a decision maker to such kind of a meeting. It's not that much of a law-making procedure or amendments to the law, but okay, we have the audience warming up. We see it. Institutionally, yes, the audience have warmed up already. I will give you the microphone. Thank you. I am an optimist, so I will start with the positive. Thank you very much for comparatively qualitative plan of restricting the shadow economy, where FICIL also participated. But we have to also consider the background, how, to what this plan was developed. Well, we were talking about, for example, mushroom pickers, berry pickers, and catching them. But then what about this new plan and how high quality it is, or qualitative at all? We have to be grateful how the Ministry of Economy is working in this plan, and also Madame Bogdanova. But we are also glad to see, grateful for the cooperation with State Revenue Service and her, the new leader and her team. And we are meeting, and in a structural way, we are discussing the problems and everything that is possible to be done at the level of the State Revenue Service in order to fight the tax problems, tax evasion. And FICIL, for example, and now after the OECD report, we continue reading that this very important instrument is the implementation of the law and reduction of the feeling of of impunity. Unfortunately, there are groups of society, there are companies that take pride in evading the paying of the taxes. It's unacceptable. Next year, when we meet, I definitely do not want to raise this topic ever again, because we're talking every year the same. If FICIL doesn't help, then maybe OECD report is going to be the one which helps, because it speaks specifically about how, for example, indirect evidence, or there are various mechanisms how we can finally ensure that everyone is equal, because we need to understand that the foreign investors are the ones that have these consequences, that bear the consequences. And now I have a question to Mr. Asharadens. State Revenue Service is telling that they lack instruments year after year in order to be able to exercise their rights. But okay, so here, as we are jumping towards this topic, actually now I want to see in the background the slide which was prepared. There are various topical slides. I understand that this is now represented by yeah, thank you for evaluation of this plan and regarding the shadow economy. We have a new institution now actively involved, which is the Financial Intelligence Unit. We have data, and we have gathered data very well. We see how the cash is moved. But now about the mobilizing repression institutions, I think that we will see now events, well, next year maybe very much, and okay, indirect, and that's all, like indirect evidence and trust, and is that all? Well, there is this common measure of declarations, and we are going to submit a significant policy document now. We only have the work towards the regime of small entities. Now we have understood maybe what it might be, but now the trade chamber, and now, well, we're going towards mandatory declaration to all the citizens of Latvia, and then also liability if not all income is declared. So I hope we are actually solving this year. Is this an acceptable answer then? Well, most important, we need to see this come to a fruition for all the tools to be used and these, once again, measures implemented. Okay, there are many speakers, but here I would like to also invite Florian. Florian, maybe you would like to say.
It's good to discuss construction permits, but it will not attract a single foreign investor. So I want to come back to the strategic level and the question. What sectors, what focus, what's the brand Latvia going to stand for? You have 5 seconds in today's war of attention. In 5 seconds you can say 3 words. What are the 3 words going to be? I asked this question since 8 years. I did not get an answer yet.
Помедленным.
Then when you said...
Let's try.
No, I'm not finished, sorry. Of course, you have to work on the construction permits, Mr. Mayor. And for example, what came out when we had roundtables for e-mobility in Tallinn, Riga, and Vilnius. Actually, your planning, Riga, came out first. You have a totally gifted guy in this construction permitting department that has developed a super genius plan, which Tallinn doesn't have and Vilnius doesn't have. But it's also, there he said, it's lacking resources a bit and processes, and then to harmonize, because there need to be Electrum or the others, there need to be not only the construction permit, but there need to be the energy companies and some others. So there's a chance to use advantage and to make a profile for Riga, yeah? And maybe in combination with 5G, autonomous driving, where you have also lots of work already put in. And the last point also to you, Mayor, there's international partnerships. Riga has partner city in Germany. It's called Rostock. Last week we went with 50 companies to Rostock, but we could not mobilize your city to activate this partnership. Yeah? Please take these invitations and go also. You have to be also a foreign minister of your city sometimes.
Okay, thank you. Tirškungs droši vien sāk atbildēt, bet visi, kam ir ko atbildēt.
Mr. Tirsis, you can start answering. Let's look at the first question, strategic question. I can see that Riga is the city of knowledge. And yesterday we met with 3 universities, and we are planning to move forward and will turn our words into practice, meaning that there will be many good things for the benefit of the image of the city. Also, all kinds of surveys being asked from universities in order to solve problems together, as well as attract students to Riga. Because we spoke about human capital, we have to talk about immigration aspect as well. And this is a good immigration aspect to have students, let's say engineers or doctors who've studied here in Riga for several years, for them to stay here. Riga is a city of knowledge having several dimensions, speaking about strategy, but speaking about construction and all the bureaucracy and all the procedures that are too lengthy, we are working into the right direction. There is a problem for Riga with resources. And from the point where we tried to escape from, namely, we had less allocations in our budget. Then we had COVID budget, and the third one has a little addition to it. But in order to get capacity in the industries where you didn't have the capacity, you have to allocate resources for that. Unified remuneration system at the same time did great harm to us. All services of the city, let's say engineers, they do not want to work for the city. They can work for private companies. Actually, you didn't see at what Mr. Kurchagin's wanted to say. I don't want to add yes or no. This is indeed an issue that we are going to talk about in the Auditor General's office. Mr. Tirsis, thank you. Maybe someone else can answer this question. Mr. Birchkens, two champions. First, aviation, where we have big advantages. We are the best in speaking about connection. Air Baltic and aviation, as 500 million export-capable company, is indeed an important player, and I believe that the foreign investors appreciate that. Second, in this new era, the importance of ports and free economic zones where the value chain changes. When we turn to logistics functions of ports with offshore wind parks, aviation fuel, e-fuel that will be derived from hydrogen. Industrial zones, we do see them in Ventspils. Bucher, for example, exports to 20 countries, and these are my messages in Washington, Copenhagen, in Hamburg, in port days, where I speak to investors, or amongst you have Riga Universal Terminal, Container Terminal, Buchen and others. Do evaluate possibilities for expansion of your terminals. Mr. Valainis, I believe that At the moment, it is important to do our all homeworks concerning strategy planning. Negotiations with foreign investors and all kinds of visits, it has to be done. But at the moment, in Latvia, we have fundamental homework to be done. Strategy for human capital, bureaucracy decrease, and others. There are other areas than construction where bureaucracy is too much. Energy issues where we still have to do lots of strategic work, as well as we have to be happy that we still do have investments, because we indeed invited German investors, German companies. They went around Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and they gave the feedback. What they said about Estonians, speaking about ECT, Estonians aggressively tell what they can offer, but in Latvia we do have it actually in place. But we are not talking about that. Fibonol is coming over from Estonia to us, but we have to do the homework. First, we have to tidy things and then speak about them. Fundamental things should be tidied at home for existing investors to develop, as well as for the new ones to come and actually get what they want. Mr. Asheradens, anything to add? Here it is, I see the problem, one of the main problems. Thank you, Florian, for the question. How to tidy one or another question of economy. Those are hygiene issues that do work or do not work. Estonia and Lithuania have used their brands very well. Estonian have used this best electronic public administration, which is mainly on the paper, on words only. Lithuania chose fintech strategy, but I don't want to say that all of Lithuania is fintech. Florian, what we have today is what not the result of our work, but due to the warfare. Latvia has a bright and very rapidly developing drone sector. Yesterday, Americans also made a big order, and we are actually leaders of drone coalition in the world. This is a sector where people are looking for money, not for raw material, but for because the demand is so high, and you can add optics, AI, and all other areas to that industry. Second, hydrogen. Hydrogen valleys and elements of hydrogen valleys we can see both in Riga, where we work with engine plates. Also in Liepāja, there is a plan to do hydrogen park, if everything goes well with wind parks. Hydrogen will follow. What we can still debate, and the debates has started, namely followed by priorities. If we agree on certain sectors that will be priorities, we can do lots. I'm not saying that all of Latvia will be drone or hydrogen. This was not a short answer, Mr. Asheradens. We have lots of questions. I cannot answer shortly to a difficult question. You said that if everything goes well with wind parks, what does it mean? Very precise question. The situation that we were not ready for when developing wind park, Latvia agrees finally to wind turbines. There are municipalities agreeing, inhabitants are agreeing to wind turbines. Latvia has an obligation as Eastern partner to to do the surveillance of the territory, and sometimes it is problematic to have turbines located there on the border because they can disturb signals and images, and we cannot actually store these signals and images. Mr. Vainovskis, Mr. Tsirulis, you have the floor for questions. I represent Evers and Sutherland and Bittan's company. I have a question to Finance and Economy Minister. This report on bureaucracy, on red tape, this as well as future topic where we Estonia, Lithuania are on the same start position. The question is, where will we be in 3 years? Sustainability, reporting of sustainability. More and more companies gradually, now already, have to prepare sustainability overview. Sustainability overview will be an additional administrative burden, or maybe our public administration will be able to turn it into a pro, ensuring them access to sustainable finances, sustainable or green procurement, supported by tax policy, those companies who want to prepare sustainability reports. I know that Estonia is thinking about that. So what is our strategy in order for us to transfer sustainability from potentially administrative burden into a something beneficial, into a positive feedback? Thank you, Mr. Valenis. Question of sustainability is a difficult question, but we cannot put it aside. Otherwise, sustainability will be introduced by bank sector, making companies just to accept their principles. That's why we have very difficult discussions in the working group of tax policy, making difficult choices. You already mentioned incentives, somehow to incentivize companies. These are indeed issues on our tables. But nowadays, we are talking more about tax policy and incentives in tax policy. But we are urging also our climate minister to think about that, because he is responsible for making this report from a burden into a possibility. Either we do it or we will lose. We will again lose. The strategy is to urge the ministry to think. We are in the same position as other colleagues in other Baltic countries. We do not see clearly where we are going. Maybe the Auditor General wants to say something. You very precisely said that this is a presence and also a future. It is also a future for countries, not only for companies, to report their sustainability. And at least when we are talking to other auditors from other countries, auditors will be those controlling the reporters of sustainability reports. Preparation to do so is a very good precondition that Mr. Valenis already mentioned. Do you see, when talking to other auditors, have others done something already? We recently looked at how we are dealing with sustainability goal, reaching them. We concluded that the information is not publicized, it is not collected, so others do not know about that information. Thus, we lose potential of advertising ourselves as the sustainable country. And if we are not going to do that, but other countries will do that, we will shoot ourselves in a leg.
There are several directions. One is business and another is state itself. So the management method so far, I think we are working towards developing a deeper plan of management, and I think that the idea is to link, to draw particular vision plans and also tie it to budget expenditures and now performance-based budgeting. I plan that I'm going to be in the government in May with the report, how to reach it. We have reached main agreements, and here the idea is that the society is paying taxes in order to receive services. We can then define the services with the results. That is one that we have already heard. Now the government is working also within a cycle to change the policies in one or another field. And the third, being the most difficult problem in Latvia, is that we have no qualitative long-term plans. We have long-term plans on spending the European funds, but for the development, no. And then it is a challenge. It is a common challenge not to overcomplicate. We need 6 major goals, and that would include sustainability. For example, how many people would live in Latvia? What will be the, for example, 1.3 million? Is it enough? No. It's clear because we have only forecasts. We can't actually sustain any social system. We have to be talking about that, and that also involves topic of the sustainability. Okay, maybe just don't touch upon every topic of each question because we will not be able to get any further than with that. But I would just maybe ask questions, and also if you have any questions, then please ask them particularly to a particular person. Dace Cīrule, also FICIL Energy and Green Economy Work Group Leader. The possibility for businesses as a bonus. You are right. Well, it shouldn't be the bonus for companies that they are writing the sustainability report because it is funded to very little amount of companies. Now, the Ministry of Finance, you are unattainable with you are unattainable with this green deception. You are refusing to solve this topic about greenwashing. And now about the bureaucracy, we have indeed a slide with most points. I will not go through the slide, but I will just say that the businesses, we're not just perceiving this as actions we need to do or not need to do, but the bureaucracy is, we simply have that, we have absolutely large, like it's so big. The bureaucracy is so big, and also in the slides of Florian, we had seen the comparison with Latvia and Estonia. When are we going to finally reduce the bureaucracy as a system, a total system in Latvia? Looking at the 6 points here, does it match to how the state audit sees the bureaucracy and how big, how large indeed is work to be done until the politicians are answering? One of the aspects we're looking is how the state administration works inside. Cooperation, resources devoted to one or another resource and fulfillment thereof. And so there is, again, good potential. We are working from one to another, revision from one audit to another. One just small example. For example, execution of administrative penalty. More than 1,500 people in Latvia work in so many capacities, but we have calculated that we would need only 30 in order to do this function effectively, successfully. And we see how difficult it's been for the municipalities to make their management leaner. We have large potential. But again, from OECD, we've also heard that very often is when you hear about the responsibility of certain institutions, then we can't move forward. Okay, but then you have a plan. State audit criticizes it and says we need new plan. Well, plan was good, but how we executed it. If we're talking, for example, about the audit, how it was with plan introduction, we saw that many things that you are mentioning today too. For example, KPI, well, them being missing, and so many things about the remuneration reforms and merging the offices. Well, it just wasn't implemented. It was simply not implemented. Okay, the politicians now maybe actually are very much willing to answer, I see. Let's try, because the administrative burden, I think this is also a central element to FICIL, especially. Yes, in transportation, we have 14 institutions, 3 large ports, and also several smaller. But we have so many institutions where in other countries that we 2 or 3, but we have so many of them. And now in cooperation with OECD, what we have launched is institutional and business model reform of this field, where we would like to see all those silos, railroad, mail, aviation, marine industry. We want to consolidate on all levels in all these fields, not to mix the management with commercial functions in order to reduce the so that we do not see them being worried, expressing the concern about overlapping of the functions. So we need the design of the development and also broader, because the infrastructure needs to plan like in a synergy. Rail Baltica, for example, is a great example. Investors have always supported it, but it's road, it's railroad, energy. Okay, but sorry, you said you are going to search for these opportunities now with OECD for 2 years, because these documents are showing that. No, these documents are now under review in the government already. But no, it's not going to be for 2 years. The major conclusions, it's been a misunderstanding, because we need for consolidating new business models, new funding models, and new instrument development, company consolidation or restructurization to finalize it. I'm not here 2 years in planning. I'm not going to do it. I just would like to add that the plan of the bureaucracy reduction is present. We need to start implementing it. And we need to start, I mean, here we are ministers, chairpersons of the city council. We need to say now that in a year, and in particular, what we are going to show for in a year time, because we have major plans too. How we are planning to reorganize, for example, our institution. I don't know. Well, how much can we be talking about the plans? Because we need only action. There are plans. Plans are present. We need to start implementation. Okay, we have many more people that want to speak. We want a dialogue, so please provide them a microphone too. Hello, I'm from telecommunication. I'm representative of BITE. And here about the activity, action, as you mentioned. And we have foreign investors here and procurement and bureaucracy. So our question, for example, how to reduce favoritism and with companies that attract foreign investment, exclusion of them from procurement tenders. I don't know who of you needs to do it, who of you is ready to get into details. I mean, against whom you... Well, we have addressed both ministries. And when we'll do. That is what they answer. And when we get there, then they are reviewing it. But we're not going any further. I mean, who is ready for you to review these concerns or these applications? Well, I have had this. I have heard the concerns of the businesses. I don't see any arguments. Why wouldn't we, in the telecommunication business, why would we be in favor of some players? But I want to defend, like, for example, why do we go in well, I'm asking Latvenergo, for example, what are the results regarding the development of the wind parks? We are working towards this very much, but each such case where the state is involved and where there's private sector present, then we need to actually answer the question why. And in this case, there is no answer. And this favoritism, as you mentioned, then regarding any particular company, it's actually it's very bad for the company itself, because they can then be relaxed and be working with state procurements, and that constitutes a large portion of their portfolio, but it potentially actually is bad for their development. Now, is it actually an answer, or Mr. Briškens, we know this problem, and also in the ministry, and also after talking to the investors in the procurement system, electronic procurement system, we are not managing it, but there is the topic of transportation too included, and we are looking at what we need to change, not to have some kind of a priority towards any or another applicant. We're talking about the context of European Union now, even if there's larger consolidation, that would actually raise concerns to our local players. We are working very competitive, and we don't see any possibility to have state operator to have any kind of advantages. It shouldn't be like that. But then about also building the infrastructure, we are going forward with the proposals to have these to have more beneficial conditions for locating the antennas on public buildings, to have automatically this 5G functionality. I mean, there is an array of arguments. These answers are even. Do you like these answers? Are they okay? The question was about the bureaucracy. That's clear about the procedures. But what are we doing in Riga then? We're searching for possibilities for digitalization, and this year has been for all the institutions like a test where we can involve the AI and use it as much as possible, because that also allows us to, makes it easier, allows us to not use so much or involve so much human labor. But there are fields where actually, I'm sorry, but we're going to increase the bureaucracy, because in the reports and in the that is the mobility department where the capacity is missing to even service the clients. And we have conducted an audit, and we have 17 people actually missing. And there is no option to reduce this, so to say, bureaucracy. And also the amount of projects, for example, going through the municipality, where simply this. So you're actually telling that we're not reducing the sum, but in this equation, but we are shifting it or transiting. There are indeed topics where we need to increase the bureaucracy apparatus. I will have it about a different topic. Okay, let's stay with bureaucracy, and then we will move on. Gren Group representative. About what Mr. Valains just said. Last year in November, you went to our High Council event. We roasted you a little bit about the Latvenergo and state joint stock companies. But then there's the question. What the state and municipality does is what the state does. I mean, it creates the sentiment for the foreign investors, how they view Latvia. And regarding Latvenergo and maybe other fields and what we've done and what we see, bureaucracy, okay, we see it, but it's also a competition, and it's a dishonest competition. It's a respect towards the law of Latvia, and now we see that towards within the violation case against Latvenergo, there was some kind of a decision, but I think that Latvenergo is actually not obeying, and I think that there's going to be a competition audit report. Which what have you done since November to overlook Latvenergo better? That is the question to Mr. Valains, and maybe that is also the question to other panelists. Especially maybe Mr. Ašarādens as the coalition party or leading party in the government. What are the things which we can do better? Because we see good examples from, for example, Ministry of Transportation, Transport, because the representative also last month told us about how we can reduce the conflict of interest in supervision, and what the other ministries do. I will now add a couple of points. FICIL created this, all of the members together. Inefficiency of state management or state administration here is highlighted. About the particular points, I will not say. I mean, this is a deeper discussion is necessary about this topic, but we are reviewing. In Latvian Ergo also something has changed. We need to change the supervisory board work. And what is also important for the ministry, we are trying to create an automated mechanism which would then solve the situation that the minister is not interested in the work of the state capital company, but they could also then be working with the topics of that company efficiently. So I am now interested maybe in the work of some company. Yes, that's clear. But at the same time, I could maybe avoid doing that at all. And that's just my interest. And why we're doing this, we see there are huge problems. Our colleagues are fighting now with Rail Baltic, which we have missed out on some problems that have aggregated over time, and politically we have ignored it. It shouldn't be like that. Okay, but is it a good answer about Latvian Ergo like that, or maybe the question was actually different? Maybe they have not, Mr. Valens didn't finish yet. Well, this is the goal for capital companies to have their goals set so that in the longer term we see that everything is done correctly and in important milestones there is an involvement. We are ready to implement the plan, and also with state audit, because state audit is actually conducting good audits about state administration, and we need the capital companies, state capital companies, for the officials not to be able to avoid this responsibility. He can be speaking for an hour without drinking water. We know that, so sorry, please.
Man ir prieks dzirdēt, ka jūs atsaucaties uz valsts kontroles grupu.
Thank you very much for your answer. You mentioned Auditor General's office. What Auditor General himself says about that? It is important to live in law-abiding country. So if auditors' reports are observed, you mentioned Rīgas siltums. This is a very specific issue, and what I was irritated at. And I spoke about it with Mr. Stirsis. It was too complicated. It was so complicated, and I'm glad that we actually solved the issue and didn't blow $1 million up in the air. How much auditors' recommendations are implemented? Sooner or later, they are implemented and respected. I will mention public capital companies, not only state, but also municipal public companies. The governance should be strengthened, because we are still talking that there are capital companies without strategies, without goals. They work not like an instrument, but they are entering also in commercial activities where there is no real interest. And some public capital companies are not capital companies at all. They have just this legal status in order for them to be governed. They are either agencies or institutions or something else. Mr. Asheradens didn't speak about bureaucracy, but let's talk about continue with capital companies. Many have spoken about being listed. How many capital companies will be listed? Then about members of the board, will there be foreigners? Yes, no, no clear decisions, no indicators. What was the question to the Prime Minister's party? Is it clear where you are going, or are you still discussing? Speaking about capital companies, the government has a rather clear plan how we are going forward and moving towards being publicly listed, how it will be done. So this action is quite clear, and what will happen. This is a short answer. A longer answer, whether this listing will result in bigger efficiency, quicker re-evaluation and evaluation, what will be the benefits? This will be ability for a company to be publicly opened. This is quite different class of company. We look at Enefit and Latvian Ergo. Enefit Green is quite powerful, aggressive, offering good quality services. If they are not let through the door, they will enter through the window. They have a totally different model for behavior. So I hope that we will finally agree that public companies should all be like that. But how to do? How to do it? Yes, indeed, a question, not a plan. We have agreed upon a plan, but how it will happen? Mr. Kirsis, returning to the initial question, several blocks. First, governance. Speaking about Riga, Riga, when governing capital companies, has done a lot, from political governance to professional governance. And you see that, let's say, Riga Satiksme in 3 years cut 20 million from administrative cost budget easily. Then you spoke about competitive board and Auditor General's office 2 years ago, Norpus sewing mill that competition board reported upon, issue was solved. But what Mr. Valainen said about Riga Siltums, honestly, I am not having any respect against request of a competitiveness board that in January we blow up into the air all the heat that they had saved, and we bought it for high market value, and consumers paid for that. So I believe environment rights should be higher than rights for competitiveness. So it is okay for an answer. I did not like the reply from Mr. Kirsis. This question is much more detailed. This heat that was blown in the air cannot be used and saved at any moment. So the market should be competitive. That's why I mentioned that there are nuances, but there is a problem, isn't it? Don't you agree that you are producing and then buying for very expensive, and then you blow and pollute the air? Ministry of Transportation, it's not the story just about listing. According to the initiative of the government, Parliament accepted a historic agreement allowing state treasury to buy also the loan securities. This decision was, of course, refinancing process of Rail Baltic, but at the same time, we have very efficient instrument for the state to work in the emission market, similar to investors. And this is how public capital companies can access the emission stocks as well as other securities. I take responsibility of totally state capital companies, or let's say Air Baltic. If companies will have to perform better when being publicly listed. The minister quite rightly said that it will be a totally different league where capital companies will play. I am the responsible person for the competitiveness board. I have a reply for minutes in order for you not to just have lies here. Competition board never ordered to blow heat into the air. We have not invented this system. We have a report where we say that the system has to be changed, but what Gren Riga is telling you, there were breaches on pricing mechanism, not on blowing heat into the air. Will there be a reply? Good thing is that at least we managed to keep the heat into our pipes, worth $1 million. And I hope that next year we will save even more heat, and we will find a common factor with everyone. So we recently spoke with Mr. Tirsis. It is difficult to look into how heat is blown into the air, but this is a plain fact. Adding to what you've said, according to our report, this issue is being dealt with, how to actually make it better. The system of procurement of Riga Right Bank, for making it consumer-friendly, at the same time keeping investor-friendly. My reply, Mr. Tirsis, yes, my reply probably will be based on the following. It is clear that not competition board forbade something, but the system that is based on best principles of competitiveness. In this case, it worked not for the benefit of the environment, as well as not for the benefit of consumers. So, says the moderator, those who have not asked questions yet, I represent Environment Consultation Board, returning back to administrative burden. We know that administrative capacity by companies as well as public governance is burned for small things. Let's say to get an agreement upon a pipe or a wire, you have to draw a line on a white page and then get several signatures on the page. We know a very good example with solar panels. Nothing has happened without 50 signatures, but what happened afterwards, when it was not necessary to have 15 signatures, how people could place solar panels on their roofs. This is a proof how we can reduce administrative capacity and to save money for companies and for consumers. It can be done in other levels as well. And we can save resources. This was a replica or a reply. Another question?
Irina Rosenstein.
Irina Rosenstein, also FICIL member, and I have a question about labor. And then, but we also, yeah, okay, that's another slide then. But then the question about the bureaucracy apparatus and then control in state audit reports. In state audit reports, in particular, it says that, and it highlights that we have several institutions in Latvia that are working towards a vocational education of adults. And FICIL has said, yes, we are lacking a coordination and the result is not the best. The FICIL has indicated it, and also various other labor organizations, and I'm talking about the human capital development. And, well, there's a silence, nothing. Maybe there's no, I don't know, there's no political answer then, it's missing. I think that the question then is addressed, should be asked to me, but then we are trying to squeeze out the maximum, so to say. In the ministry, we have institutionally prepared for being ready to prepare in any capacity, be it take over the NVA agency, state labor agency, or the structure somehow, but it is not happening. Our positions are different among the ministers. The ministers do not agree on this, but what are you talking about? I agree to FICIL and state audit, and I think that I agree to Mr. Asheradens, and Mr. Asheradens agrees to me about these matters. But then when we go to particular ministers, they are categorically on the other end. They do disagree. And the arguments are, I don't know, we could be speaking for a very long time about it, but what we are trying to do, we are trying to design the inclusive system. Maybe we can't merge any or all of the functions, but we could decision making in the council to add also the institutions. I think that the Ministry of Welfare would agree. Ministry of Education also agrees. Let's see, but you are definitely going to be the ones we talk to. And I hope and I want to see great development and results in this matter. This is the situation where we are, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately, I don't like the answer because we have to see how it works. Yes, you don't know. Well, I hope it will, but I can now actually launch a political decision to merge the institutions, and then we would be in the same place for a year and wouldn't see the results as quickly. Human capital strategy does not answer the questions. We do not see particular steps how to reach it. It's actually raised somewhere higher, and the results are not going to be given. We have so many institutions that do so many same things. Maybe state audit can answer then, and then we will continue. We are waiting for the steps ourselves too. Okay, for them to be adopted. The previous period, we did invest a lot of further education of the adults. Yes, we did invest, but not in the priority or critical groups. Okay, maybe there's something to add. And the second thing, the question the previous speaker spoke about is the process of administration. Possibly that's one of the things that didn't work. That's the problem. We have actually here we could save 3 million if we did merge these institutions and functions, but we are actually expecting better results in general. Yes, I agree. I agree to state audit completely. But then can I continue with another topic and also the question to the torturing the Ministry of Economics, foreign labor. I think that the Ministry of Economics has actually admitted already long ago that we would need to import, so to say, labor also from abroad, and also FICIL shows this. We have a lot of bureaucracy in this question, in this matter. So attraction of the labor from abroad, from employment from the abroad. Now, if we look at the midterm, long term, I'm not talking about the demography here or re-immigration, but now about the policy attitude towards these solutions which we can then solve quick enough. Then again, the question is, what can we do? Because we have to work with companies, and you were also involved in the work, in the task forces. I mean, we have defined 4 measures. 3 measures have been adopted already in the government. Something is in the procedures, stuck in the procedures, also in the parliament, in the government. We need some amendments to the law. But if you have anything else you would like to amend, then you have something else. I mean, that's a particular question. Maybe you just tell us and tell us. You say, for example, let's see, reduce the bureaucracy. Here we have the Ministry of Economics. Any questions specifically to improve this? I understand very well with Mr. Adamovich. Yesterday we spoke, who's from Aluksne, and in the panel, and he said he's importing the Poles, so to say, Poles, what they call. But what else? Maybe something specific, Mr. Valines, could you allow them to say? Yes, we would then point out that there is the average salary and it being tied to the average salary in the industry. Then, but about the bureaucracy burden, we did not receive an answer how we're going to introduce these expedient terms, deadlines. We do not believe that with the capacity we have currently, we would then fulfill these goals. Not only about the bureaucracy burden, but also the FICIL is talking about special platform creation, where and how we could attract or smart migration, for example, students, higher education institution students from abroad, how specifically we can then address certain countries, work with higher institutions and institutions representing the companies in different countries to attract the labor. Because so now about the universities. Higher education, it is linked to the matter of availability of foreign labor. The doors are open. If there are, now Janis Domburs, State Secretary, Deputy, in these topics, just please notify him about, I will then inform further, because it's a fact, there's a problem. Nobody in the government disagrees. Okay, so a couple of more, maybe someone who didn't have an opportunity to ask a question, but then, okay, let's do one more round, so to say. Now, in the context of with the question of DATSA, then I would really like to hear finally the answer to the question that we need to reduce, we need to make state administration more efficient. Mr. Briškins just said, for example, within one ministry, there are a couple of, so there are tens of structures. We could reduce it to 3 or 4. But now in simple terms, why wasn't it yet done? And what are the risks now for you not to implement this in a year? I mean, there's a plan, you have researched everything, you know what you're doing, but now in simple terms, 1.5 years, okay, I wasn't present. But then it's clear that we have resistance from those who would be the subjects of the reform, so to say. It's clear that the reform itself is a grandiose. I'm not saying that everything is going to be then merged into some one structure. There are going to be several various kinds of restructurings, but the core functions indeed need to be consolidated. So it's resistance from the subjects. Okay, sorry, I can't speak in such simple terms. That's my problem. Maybe we've all heard this already before. But then it's clear that there's mini empires that have been created. They don't want change. There's a resistance to this change and transition. They feel endangered because of that. But I would like to work with those who do believe that it is actually a matter of our organization and our institution's survival, not just competitiveness. We can't simply move on how we've worked so far. I would like to comment, actually, there are 2 parts to my question there have been. We couldn't reflect back. One is this reduction of bureaucracy apparatus, but then again, how much it costs to the society. And that is a question specifically to also adding to what our colleague from BT said. Why is it still that the state is paying 4 times more for telecommunication services which are used by your employees, your administration? And you are not sorting out this matter. Why? Why do we have actually this extra money? You're walking around telling everyone how hard it is, how difficult it is. We will have to reduce our expenses. But this is the position we are being shown for years. 4 times more. We have extra markup. We pay. You can actually afford this, and there are no consequences. You are continuing. You are coming back saying, we don't have the money. And again, then there's also a question to the Minister of Transport. We've been in your office. Thank you very much. You did host a meeting with us, but then meeting on the... now, you answered completely something else when speaking to the officials. You turned around and told the officials something completely different. I am, well, sorry, but... I have a particular question. So, in order to harmonize between your ministry, we've met with both. No reaction or very minimal reaction. We want to squeeze it out of the lemon, you just said. But when maybe we need to schedule a meeting. The colleagues already informed that in the Ministry of Transport we're working. I just said that this is not the system we administrate, but we need to solve this question. What needs to be changed in the electronic procurement system, which is not the most efficient system in the world? Every one of us knows this. We do not so that we do not have such defective competitiveness. So are you talking about the phones? No, telecommunication question. That's one of the questions. You are actually, you say you can afford because, well, expenses, for example, expenses on what? On their salaries, but you're not telling anything about buying them expensive telecommunication services. Well, if it's on my table, then in the agenda, if we're talking about the efficiency of the administration, now I can't answer this question if you're asking this particular one about this affordability. But now looking from the point of view of the Ministry of Finance, this goes along the lines with no one is actually, now in the government, nobody is responsible, no minister, no person who is responsible for efficiency of state administration. I mean, but maybe everyone then is responsible. No, it's like human capital policy. If this question is, or if you are telling that the Ministry of Economy is responsible, now we're trying to reform, and this is also by state audits, and now give us the tool. Give us the tool. But sorry, Mr. Sauka is just sitting here saying that the State Chancellery is the one to be responsible. State Chancellery has to be, but it's not. But that's exactly the point. I agree to Arnis, but I think, and this is the replica both and the question, if you wish, considering that the reduction of bureaucracy burden is the central matter. Janis Domburs also was listening to this Laser think tank event, just organized so it's like, you can't say who said it, but you can say what was said. And so what I remember, and in the context, this one phrase, that the bureaucrats never, the bureaucracy never becomes smaller. I hear it throughout all the discussion, like, and there was no answer to this. No, you just can't. You can't. It's not possible. It's unnatural to the bureaucracy, meaning. Okay, but then, well, and your attempts, you're talking about the attempts. Yes, you're putting it in the right words. No ministry is responsible for the efficiency of the state administration. So what are we talking about then anyways? No, but I mean, it's clear that this is something we need to solve, and we need to make such decisions. Which ministry will be responsible then? That is what we make the decision. And that is, again, the concern also of the human capital. The minister is fighting. There are changes regarding the human capital employment attraction from third countries. We need to move in this direction. Minister, state secretary, and deputy state secretary is responsible. Then very in particular, we set this. Now we will say minister or state secretary or deputy state secretary who will be responsible. But that has to be still decided. The last minutes.
Hello, I represent Norwegian Trade Council in Latvia. Antra Zālīte, it seems as if Martians came and gave us this bureaucratic burden, and we cannot deal with it. If in business we would so diligently implement useless things, we would go hungry, all of us, half of Latvia. Out of all the examples, one thing that was mentioned, that establishments, institutions, ministries do not talk to each other, do not share data. Our Visma group works in 32 countries, in all EU and EEZ countries. Identification of BOs. Some time ago, we thought that BOs cannot be identified, but then it was possible to identify. Now we start the process anew. We start anew and request BO again. The same documents that are valid in other countries are not accepted in Latvia to find BOs. We spent 18 months in order to register the owners accounting for 2% of the owners. And I imagine again what again I will have to do in order to change this insignificant number of owners of shares, 2% in BO's register. This is the next escalation. With the register of enterprises, we already understood what we have to do, similar to Danes or Germans, but now banks repeat the same process from the same 0 point. We have accounts in several banks and we have several companies, meaning that we go through the process again and again with every company. Maybe we could, or banks could trust state enterprise register and, or at least majority of the data and trust that. I've heard it, indeed. I've heard these absurdities. Where does this come from? Speaking about Rail Baltica, indeed, for about BOs, Rail Baltica is the biggest project, and also we had tax debts, and a company that has 1,000 euros in tax debt, he is eliminated, and another company offering the same service for a couple of millions more is accepted. This is yet another stupidity, but in procurement and in not in BO register, but tax debt register. There are causes and consequences. Very recently, Latvian banks were laundering millions of euros every day. And these were companies, enterprises, investors. And that's why we have this heavy burden. I was reminded about that very recently in America. We, after FICIL report, FICIL report, we had to do things better. We are talking about construction industry. Why it is so lengthy process? Because Maxima developers were accountable for the Maxima tragedy. The state reacted, maybe overreacted. The situation is getting better. Every regulation was taken for a reason, and many companies and businesses are responsible for that. We are very slowly going out of these bureaucratic ties. For Latvian society, it is very important. Also, reporting authorities are notaries as well as lawyers. They have to notify as well about suspicious transactions, but they are keeping silent. There have been causes and now consequences. You said in FinCEN, you mentioned that we were listed in FinCEN, ABLV Bank, 3x1 resolution. It's not about country, it's not about Latvia, but that was jurisdiction of against the country where ABLV could operate. My name is Janis. I represent DPD Latvia. I would like to ask a question on human capital. A simple question. I was looking at the presentation, especially the Florian's presentation, that already now we are lacking human capital, skilled labor. Mr. Asherad has just said something about 1.3 million people. Also investments in aviation, in ports. in rail, who has master plan, where we will get these constructors, these builders? Short answer, please. We are lacking them already now. Where do we get them from? I think I responded to that question. There are some impediments to the legislation. If you can point out and word an amendment, do come up with it. I know that there are not enough drivers in transportation sector, but it depends, of course, on the quality of the transportation. This is a problem, and we are trying to solve it on management level, dealing away with absurd requirements, namely that all the members of the board of a capital company should know Latvian language on B level, or maybe it can be reduced by half, which Estonians and Lithuanians has done. The same about universities who dealt away with this requirement. Another question or a reply. We should not only focus on third country citizens, but on our own country. There are tens of hundreds of people who can still be used from local capital by paying decent salaries and not letting them immigrate. Finally, we have to sit down and discuss the question, where do we go with re-immigration? We postponed this question. It's kind of a taboo topic. Another topic what we have to discuss, how much technologies will take over. Maybe already at the moment AI can drive our buses. We have in Riga some pilot territories where experiments can be conducted. One close to VEFs, where one experiment was already conducted with autonomous car. This is another, indeed, possibility to save human resources, but are we ready to take that step into the unknown? Thank you very much for your comments. I indeed urge you to be an example, public companies and municipal companies, for our companies to follow. Short answer, Mr. Ashradens. You can self-regulate lots of things. One thing that I hear from people who are handing out documents, there are problems with people coming from third countries. The biggest problem is that they can stay here only if they have agreement with the employer. And sometimes employers are misusing that. Poland has introduced the law that immigrants don't have to leave the country immediately after they lose the job. But this is also a question of sustainability, whether we will keep the balance between satisfaction of the society as well as deficit of labor or skilled labor. How we ensure this deficit of 30%. And then returning back to the society, usage of language. How do we use our language, and what language? Let's say State Revenue Service, for example, cannot reply in English to FICIL members. We have indeed less than a couple of minutes. That's why I will ask the last question that can be answered very briefly. I hope that in a year, Arnis Sauka will come up with the next overview and survey, and which will be comparable with this. That last question, please name one specific or two specific things that should be done in a year, this year, in a year's time. But politicians, what you personally will do this year for the results to be better. Mr. Korchagins, what should be done? First, one or two things. Main. Within the context of this survey, first, solving the question of human capital, how we will invest in young people for us to have skilled labor of our own people. And second, shadow economy, combating shadow economy. Those are topics, but what to do? Both. To look at measures that are confirmed already now, and I believe that this survey will be a good material for the future. Mr. Kirsis, what you will do, practical issue from the survey, Department of Transportation from of the Riga City Council, as well as what Florian mentioned, to come up with strategic goals identifying or stipulating the identity of the city. We will reach the I think we will, in a year, come up with a unified controlling authority, also governing framework of Rail Baltica will be changed. Also, and the third one, we will implement, or actually we will come up with amendments for diminishing bureaucracy for communication networks. What you will do, Mr. Valainis, on construction, we have to reorganize LIA, or Latvia's Investment and Development Agency, and the main two issues, human capital and energy. Human capital will give us a direction where to go, and energy industry, what you will do, indeed. We have to take responsibility for that, because Elvind or Latvenergo will not decide by themselves. It is my responsibility and our ministry's responsibility to put everything concerning the energy on our agenda. Mr. Ašradens, one or two things you will do this year. It's not an easy thing to reply. What two things on my table to find a solution for better combat possibilities for the army or armed forces of Latvia. This is one issue. And second, what I will try to pass through the government, the mechanism or introduction of a mechanism between KPIs and money available, on the resources available, not just to draw one figure on one table and the other on the other table. Okay, thank you very much. This is the end of our annual event on Investors' Sentiment Index. Thank you very much, all the investors as well as panelists and participants. See you next time around.